Have you ever wondered why burnout seems to hit the strongest people the hardest? Well, today we're going to dig into a story that's thousands of years old, but feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's a story about the hidden fragility of strength and what it can teach us about our own modern lives.
So let's just start with this question, right? Can the strongest leaders, the people we look up to, the highest performers, can they just snap? It feels like it shouldn't be possible, but this is the exact paradox we're going to unpack.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll kick things off with the paradox of strength, then follow our main character's journey from peak to pit. After that, we'll get into the anatomy of burnout, search for a whisper of hope, and wrap it all up with some powerful lessons from the cave. Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, the paradox of strength, or put another way, when success leads to collapse.
You know, we have this funny idea that strength is something you achieve, and then that's it. You're permanently strong, almost bulletproof. But history, and probably our own lives, tell a very different story. It is just full of powerful people who, right at the top of their game, suddenly come crashing down.
So now, let's get into the heart of our story. This is Section 2, from peak to pit. I like to call this part the story of Elijah's whiplash. You'll see why.
Just look at this contrast. It is absolutely wild. On one side, you have Elijah the victor. He's on Mount Carmel at the absolute pinnacle of his power. He defeats 450 prophets in public, calls down fire from the sky, total triumph. And then, almost in the blink of an eye, he becomes the fugitive, running for his life from a single person, hiding under a tree, completely alone and in the depths of despair. The speed of that fall is just staggering.
And this right here, this shows you just how far he fell. He literally prays, "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life." This isn't just a bad day. This isn't just feeling tired. This is a complete and total collapse of the will to live from a guy who just had the biggest win of his life. So you have to ask, what on earth happened?
And that question brings us right to our third section, the anatomy of burnout. We're going to deconstruct this collapse piece by piece. See, this breakdown didn't come out of nowhere. It was a perfect storm, a cascade of events. First, you've got the incredible stress of that peak performance. Winning a huge victory is amazing, but it also takes a massive physical and emotional toll. Then, right after that high, a single new threat pops up, and it completely shatters his resolve. Think about that. After facing down hundreds, one threat is all it takes. From there, it's a spiral into pure physical exhaustion. He's running, no food, no water, no rest. And the final piece, total crushing isolation. The feeling that he is completely and utterly alone in all of this.
But, and this is a big but, the story doesn't end there in the dark. In our fourth section, we get to see the recovery, which starts in a really surprising, really unconventional way. We're calling it the whisper of hope.
So how does his healing begin? You might expect a big lecture, right? A booming voice telling him to get his act together. But that's not what happens at all. The first response isn't a miracle or a scolding. It was just simple, practical care.
When he's at his absolute lowest, completely burnt out, the first thing that happens is his most basic human needs are met. It's so simple. First comes rest. He's just allowed to sleep, to finally stop running. And then comes nourishment, food and water. That's it. That's the foundation, before any of the bigger healing can even start.
So after he gets some strength back, he goes to a cave. And he's looking for a big sign, right? The kind of loud, powerful miracle he's used to. And he gets a show. A huge wind comes and shatters the rocks. But God wasn't in the wind. Then comes a massive earthquake. But God wasn't in the earthquake. Then a raging fire sweeps by. Nope, not in the fire either. All the noise, all the spectacle he was probably expecting, it was empty. And then, after all the chaos, after the wind and the earthquake and the fire, there was what the text famously calls a still, small voice. Some translations even say it was the sound of sheer silence. And that's it. That's where he finds the real connection. That's where the real healing happens. So what does this ancient story have to say to us, right here, right now, in our noisy modern world? Well, that brings us to our final section, lessons from the cave, and what this story can teach us today.
Let's boil this down into some real takeaways. First, and this is a big one, despair is not a sign that you failed. Sometimes it comes right on the heels of your biggest success. Second, recovery almost always has to start with the basics. Sleep, food, and feeling safe. You can't outthink a body that's running on empty. Third, real strength and connection are often found in the quiet moments, not in all the noise and chaos. Fourth, being vulnerable isn't the opposite of being strong. It's actually a crucial part of it. And finally, even when you feel totally and completely alone, hope can still find you.
So I'll leave you with this one last question to chew on. With all the noise in our own lives, the deadlines, the notifications, the endless pressure to achieve, what still small voice might we be missing?